Hey there, and welcome to episode 21 of Cast Reflect. I'm your host Josh, and I'm joined as always by Connell Luke the Truth Jennings.
Hello, hello.
How you doing? You alright?
I'm alright, mate. Yeah, not too bad.
Good. Well, we've also got another little guest with us today, haven't we? Mr. James Lugosi. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, mate. We've wanted to do this for a little while, so we're pleased to finally have you on.
Yes.
How are you? You alright?
Yeah, just ask me. But yeah, a pleasure to be part of it.
Right, cutting this off. Fuck this guy. It's been ages, mate. We haven't hung out or spoke for a long time.
No, I heard you were at 1975. Is it 75? 1975?
Yeah, 1975. Yeah. I saw Bizzle there.
Yeah, and was it Adam Smith that was there?
Yeah, Adam. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh was trying to figure out who it was for ages. And,
Really?
Yeah. And we realised it was Adam Smith.
He's a friend of the show, mate. Adam.
Yeah, I know you stitched up Bizzle on this podcast that Adam listens to.
Well, he said he looked different now. He had no hair.
Yeah, the barber gave him a shit haircut before
really?
he went
So,
to.
it's not Bizzle, it's the barber that destroyed that. For Bizzle.
Yeah. Adam's hair was fucked up by the barbers in Newport, so he buzzed it off.
There's so many hairdressers on the Isle of Wight, but no good ones, right? It's hard to find one.
What are you trying to say, mate? You trying to say my hair doesn't look very good?
I don't know. I've just heard things about barbers.
I don't know.
No, they're like 10 a penny, aren't they, on the Isle of Wight?
Yeah.
But the one I go to in Carisbrook's all right. Well, I think it is anyway. You might not agree, but
Well,
you look like...
it's fine. If there's any listeners who are barbers, I apologise now.
Do they specialise in Elvis haircuts, Josh?
The guy I go to does, yeah, specifically. Yeah. I mean, I would say though that the mic, that my headset is probably making it look a little bit more Elvis than it actually is. But
big in the front,
yeah.
small in the middle, big in the back.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I suppose you don't really go to the barbers often, do you, Connell? Because you're probably on a one hand, is it? How many cuts you got left?
Yeah, no. Wasn't ready for that.
You started it. You said look like Elvis Presley, mate, and he's dead. So, right. Anyway,
Elvis is dead, so he's not very hair.
We're gonna have this is gonna be like an open episode. It's not got much of a structure. We're not gonna do a reflect selects. We've got James on to tell us a little bit about what he does, what he's been doing, what else he's got in the pipeline. More of these. But yeah, what are you currently up to, mate? You've got your...
For me, I do a band now called Definitely Not Haunted.
Nice.
Got 3 songs online. Check that out on Spotify, Deezer, wherever DistroKid uploads that stuff. Apple Music, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we got a gig on Tuesday, so I don't know if I should even bother saying that because I don't know when this comes out. But
this will go out the Friday after, mate. So
then we'll have another gig that isn't announced yet, which would be on the 25th of August with, I think, 25th? It's weird that they're both on the 25th, so maybe it's not. But
right.
The Dead Notes, who I think are okay. Are good. No, they're great, I think.
I was going to say, you better pick him up, mate, because you never know who's going to listen to this. This podcast might explode over the next week. This might be the episode where people actually start listening to it, yeah.
What sort of music is it then? Give us a little rundown.
Yeah. What, of Definitely Not Haunted or the Dead Notes?
No, definitely not
your
Haunted.
Band. We're not here to interview them, are we?
I guess it's like folk punk. It's very, I guess it sounds very similar to Murder House, but like in my head it's like completely different because the lyrics and the context is really different, I think. Like when I wrote when I wrote the songs, I was like, oh my god, like I haven't written about a girl, I haven't written about like alcohol, I haven't written about how I'm like a loser. Like, oh my god, I've written a new form of like a new genre of music.
I've evolved.
Yeah.
And but considering Murphy just thought the band was Murder House for ages, until I told him we're having a new name, I guess we don't sound that different.
And just to clarify as well, that's not me.
Oh yeah,
that's not me talking to another guy called Murphy. That's,
what do you go by, Josh or Murphy on this podcast?
Josh, just Josh, mate. Yeah. So, who's like your band wise? Who have you taken inspiration from?
I got really into Elliott Smith during lockdown.
Nice, good time to get into Elliott Smith, isn't it? When the world's like fucking falling apart.
I watched so like, you know how lockdown was, where it felt normal to watch like a movie at like 7 a.m. I watched the documentary before I did my call center job, and I was so inspired. So whilst I was doing my call center job, which isn't my job anymore, but I was like on the phones selling these vouchers to like old ladies or whatever, whilst riffing on the guitar. And then when you'd make a sale, you got like at least like a minute of like non-microphone time, like non-talking on the phone time. So that's when I would like try and bash out some lyrics, and then as soon as that minute was over, I'd be like riffing again whilst like talking to an old lady. And then every now and again, I'd actually like accidentally sit, like be like, what? And then the person would be like, hello, who's this? And then by the end of that shift, I'd like finish the whole song, and that song is on the EP, which I'm quite proud of.
That's wicked. Cool. That's such an an interesting way to write a song. Like,
yeah, I literally didn't tell anyone that until I got some positive feedback on the recording, because I was like, this could either mean that this song was awful or
nice.
A good song.
Yeah, usually though, I find like a lot of really good songs are written in kind of like unorthodox ways. You know what I mean? Like they just come to you when you're not like when you're kind of least expecting it, and you just smash it out, and actually, fucking hell, this is pretty good.
Yeah, like especially during that time, I like really forced myself to write, because I'd like taken such a long break from it, and so like I spent like hours trying to strain some sort of juice, like some sort of like good sounding juice out of my brain, and it just wouldn't work. And then, like you said, I'd be like doing something else, and then that's when it would like appear.
Yeah. Sick. So what's the song called?
6 hour nightmare romantic. 6 hour 6 hour nightmare romantic comedy, or 6 hour romantic nightmare comedy, something like that.
Some combination of
Are you trying to make this edit harder deliberately?
I read I saw a review of I Was Afraid, that Ari Aster movie, or it was like a pre-review before it came out, and it was like, Ari Aster has made a 4-hour nightmare romantic comedy, and I was like,
right.
No, nightmare comedy, sorry. And
yeah.
Like, nightmare comedy sounds amazing. I need to fit that into a song. And like,
nice.
So yeah, and 6 hours, because it actually took 6 hours to write.
Right, okay.
I get it.
Nice.
Yeah. All these things just...
It's all up here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all up here.
Love
it.
Easter eggs that I'm the only person that thinks are cool.
So, and is this the first time you're telling...
Yeah, it's first
time the inside story.
Exclusive.
Yeah. Exclusive scoop. On Cast Reflect, the famous music podcast.
Yeah. These gamers are gonna be like,
they're gonna be like, nah, mate. To be fair though, like a lot of people that play video games are well into music, aren't they? So yeah. And the band is what are they called again? Sorry.
Definitely Not Haunted.
Definitely Not Haunted.
From a meme.
Cool.
So, everyone. Sometimes people are like, like mishear it and say like, oh, that's really cool. Definitely Not Haunted. That's such a good name. Oh no, it's definitely not haunted.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So then, other than music, what else are you doing? You're sort of semi-pro, amateur, semi-amateur wrestler now, like full time.
Is that me or is that you? Because you sounded crazy then.
I don't know.
I think it might have just been on your end.
Oh, mine. Okay. Sorry.
That's all right. That's fine.
You sounded like a robot.
Oh, it's probably my mic.
So Yeah, so during post lockdown, whilst doing his call center job, actually, I was forever just Googling wrestling schools, hoping a school in Brighton would just appear, even though I knew I knew from the first Google attempt where everything was. And soon as stuff opened up again in like 2021, I just started training in Haven't for quality wrestling. And then since then, I have been an on and off professional in quotation marks wrestler. Because I don't know if anyone knows this, but the real wrestling is called amateur wrestling, and the fake stuff is pro wrestling. So
right, yeah.
So very pro wrestling of pro wrestling to call itself pro wrestling.
Nice.
Yeah. So just to clarify, yeah. So because I've said to Connor before on the podcast, we've spoken about a couple of wrestling games like that he's been playing. I was never into wrestling because I never had Sky.
Yeah.
When I was younger, so I kind of never grew up watching it on like the American channels and that sort of thing because like all I had was like channels 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I never ever grew up with any affinity for wrestling. So like, what's so good about it? Like, why do you guys love it so much?
I think it's very easy to get sucked in if you're into like, I think like part of me that loves like just performance and like part of me that like loves live music. Like, it's not like I listen to like Alice Cooper or any of those sort of bands, but I think if I saw it live, I'd be like in awe, like, oh my god, he's just walked out of like a 20-foot coffin. Oh my god! And there's like,
it's the spectacle.
Yeah, the spectacle of it. I think that was like the first thing that drew me to it, and I think I am a sucker for like just watching fights or like I've been watching the Mission Impossible movies, and like Mission Impossible 2 sucks, but like the fight at the end was like incredible. I was like, oh my! I was like like this whole 2 hours of just Tom Cruise just having long floppy hair and kind of just driving around on a motorbike was saved by him just getting like kicked in the head and like, but also like I love choreographed fights. I don't love like I've watched UFC every now and again and just been like, why is this match only 2 minutes? Where was the comeback? Like, what?
Yeah. Where's the drama?
Yeah. And I think it's the drama of it that has just sucked me in, and I think you could all appreciate like just like getting sucked into like the nerdom of like needing to know like everything about this. And I think because like wrestling has such a rich like history, like good and bad, like you can go down the true crime route, you can go down the cheesy route, you can go down like, so many different scopes. Is like it's all over the world, like Japanese wrestling, Mexican wrestling, and even like you can go down a rabbit hole of like just looking down like Britain's like history within wrestling. And I think it's just really, really easy to just get obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I love that aspect of it. The so in the build up to this podcast, I've been watching loads of wrestling videos online and playing a lot of AEW Fight Forever, which we'll talk about in a bit. But the true crime aspect of it that you mentioned, I love that. Like when you
what is this? Because in my head, like wrestling, because I don't know much about it, wrestling's just like it's the amalgamation of just like the performance. It's like a bit of a soap. It's cheesy, like all those sort of like stereotypes that have come around it. But what do you mean by true crime?
So like,
sorry, go on.
For instance, like from like the 60s to possibly like the late 90s, early 2000s, like these like wrestlers, like they believed their own shit. Like they were like really a lot of people. There was a lot of egos. There still is egos in wrestling now. Like I don't know. Like we might get to CM Punk stuff like that happened like last year. But like behind the scenes is a lot of egos and a lot of interesting characters, like good and bad, where like Vice have like jumped on this, where there's like, I think there's like 4 seasons now of like Dark Side of the Ring, where it's literally like a true half an hour to 40-minute true crime doc, where even they have like reenactments, and it's very very kind of like nostalgic old school way of like storytelling of true crime. But like yeah, so there's like a lot of dark, shady characters within wrestling, like kind of like, because it was very similar to like old rock star. Like you see a lot of like shady stuff coming out about like rock stars in like the 70s and 80s, where we all kind of knew it, but like in this world, it's kind of, it's become a lot more people.
The exposure's there, isn't
yeah,
it?
the exposure's there, and like it's like
you can't fucking hide from anything. Can
yeah,
you?
like Jake the Snake Roberts, like his story was told in the Aronofsky movie The Wrestler. That was all like basically inspired by him, and there's like just a lot of really without getting too dark immediately, like murder cover-ups, like assaults, like all these stuff is very within this like sort of like carny world of wrestling. That's like, is, if you're into that sort of like true crime stuff, that is an aspect that's like, it's just, there's a lot of characters and a lot of
yeah. Also, even like even ones that aren't particularly dark. Well, I mean, they are dark in their own little way, but not like dark as in harrowing. But like things like when The Rock first started out, and Shawn Michaels and Triple H were like used to do everything they could to try and bury him, to stop him getting his big shot in his career, because they wanted that for Triple H sort of thing. So they would do loads of shit behind the scenes to try and stitch him up so he wouldn't get bookings and stuff like that.
So this is going to sound really ignorant and probably naive, as I said before, like, because I'm completely disassociated with it. Like, is that real?
Yeah.
Like, were they trying to like fuck him over to?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like
gain, like, to further their own career, sort of thing.
Yeah. It's like someone
because they knew because they saw him as a threat, kind of thing.
Yeah, like wrestling, like it's full of egos and like, so like when you say bury as well, like that's another aspect of wrestling where there's just this whole like, there's this whole language. Like bury is to like kind of to, he or she, they will lose multiple times, and that's like a burying. And like in wrestling, like stories are told by winning and losing, and if you want to look like Hulk Hogan, you will constantly win, to the point where in his contract he had like a no-lose policy. He was the only person who could decide if he would lose or not. And I think like that's only probably 20 years. I think that's changed, but like, yeah, like there's just like a lot of egos, and yeah, just like a whole rich history. Like there's a movie coming out this year called Iron Claw with like Zac Efron, the guy who's the dude from The Bear, and that's about like the Von Erich family.
Oh, Jeremy Allen White. Is it
that's about the Von Erich family, where like it was just really tragic, and like every member of that family basically died, and there's just like a dark like cursed past with them. And I think it's a thing that is just, you can easily just go down a rabbit hole. And I think like when I first like I dropped out of wrestling, like not like my fandom, like when I started high school, and I think not until I was like maybe like 2014 or like something like that, that's when I got back into it. And I think those years were just like kind of just trying to catch up and Googling and late nights just watching like every match that I'd missed, or going down people's careers. Like it's just really easy to,
it's like filling in all the like the lore and stuff that you've missed, isn't it, over the it's weird, because I think you see that happen quite a lot, don't you? Like you get into it when you're really young, then you sort of get to high school, and I think it becomes this thing where you either commit to it and you're like, I fucking love wrestling, I don't care, or you get to high school and you're like, oh no, like you're so impressionable and you're
Yeah,
worried about how you come across, and you're like, oh, maybe wrestling's a bit, you
it
know.
was more like I just think I just was more obsessed with music. Like it was just like
Yeah.
I think I've always kind of been that way. I've got like multiple obsessions now, but like stuff it just suddenly just wasn't important. And like in being in the UK, it was so hard to like catch up with it anyway. Like
Yeah.
it was on at like 10 o'clock at night or like even later on like a school night. And yeah, it was hard to, and yeah, like I just got obsessed with like music and don't know, like drinking or whatever, like silly teenage things that you get into. I like
Yeah.
it was like as soon as I turned like 14, I thought I was an adult anyway. So like,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Oh, what I want to know as well is, so your wrestling character that you fight under, James Lugosi, right?
yeah.
What's the Draculad, exactly? Tell us a little bit about that. What's your influence, and what is who is the Draculad?
So like it took me so long to come up with a character. Like when one it gets not that long, but as soon as I started training, we would do this they do this introduction, and like every week you introduce yourself and you share your ring name and like what your character is, and then like just with every week they're like ask a question. It was like kind of an icebreaker thing. So it meant like immediately I had to think about it. Like so and like the guy giving me a lift would he was only started a week before me, and he was like all in. He had his gear, he had his ring name, he had his character thing, and like yeah, he would ask me, and like I said this to you last week. The only wrestling name I'd thought of was Daddy Fuckboy Thompson. So like he was like a wrong'un, like a promiscuous wrong'un, and like telling that to this person that I just met, just really, it just went straight over his head.
Yeah.
I need to think, and like quality wrestling is very family friendly, so I was like, this isn't going to go down.
Probably can't get away with that.
Yeah.
with old Daddy Fuckboy Thompson.
And so I was just like, okay, and so yeah, like so like for weeks, months, I was trying to think of something, and there's this guy called Jordan Breaks who was based in Brighton, who's like been wrestling for like 5 years, and like we ran into each other in Tesco, and I said that I was training, and he asked me if I wanted to just do some like random training with him, and we just did it in the park, like down the street from my house, because it was like
That's cool.
still kind of looked at me, and he showed me this like wrestling spot, which was like a selection of moves for the people who don't know what a wrestling spot is, and it was taken from Zack Sabre Jr., who's like a British wrestler. He's a bit of a lad, and I was like, I like that energy. Like, how can I take that and make it my energy? Because I always thought of myself as being a good guy, or like I don't know. It was hard to.
What your wrestling?
Yeah, it was hard.
Character.
Yeah, it's hard to be like, what am I, a good guy or a bad guy? And then I was literally like walking to Lidl or something, and I remembered that Creeper other band, their other band, like Will's other band called Salem, they have a song called Draculads, and I was like, yeah, that's it, I'm a Draculad. And then I literally just heard someone talking about Bela Lugosi like a few days later, and was like, just wrote them together and was like, James Lugosi, yeah, that works. And yeah, that's it.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's wicked. So how's the wrestling career kind of shaping up? Have you bulked up, or like, because you've always been like skinny, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think have you bulked up?
And...
I get compliments every now and again. It's always when
right.
It's always my back. Everyone say I look broader.
Right.
Yeah, like it's pretty. The wrestling's pretty on and off at the moment, because like it's mad. Like, so if I'm 33, it hurts, and like
it just gets worse, doesn't it?
The way it describe it is like, so like we started playing music as like as early as we could, like early teenage years. It feels like I've picked up a guitar again, and I want to play a gig. I want to start learning how to gig and all this stuff at 33. So I'm taking it a lot slower than like a lot of other people, but like I'm at that age where I should, and I have other
yeah.
So I'm not going to be setting up a ring and hanging out at a venue for 10 hours for free. Unless I really
do. That's absolutely fair enough.
I've taken a few
like
and some stuff.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And like you said, if you've got the band again, and you're starting to snowball, and that's obviously taking up your time.
Yeah.
What about like the future then? Do you want to do it just like you said, on and off to start with, and then see where it goes?
Just do it when I want, and like I think I'm going to be taking up training again in winter, but like I still do, like I did a match against world famous Peppa Pig a few last month, which was really random. It was my first singles match, which was really funny, and first Brighton hometown show. So like I was helping out this place called this thing called Fist Club. It's like 50% drag, 50% wrestling, and no one was based in Brighton. So I said I like messaged them, was like, I can fly for you, whatever, can help out. And then on the day of the show, they had some extra flyers that was needed to give to them, and someone had phoned in sick, and they asked me if I could do it, and I was like, I don't know, and then 20 minutes later, they told me it would be against Peppa Pig, and I couldn't turn that down.
So, who's other than the like kids cartoon? Who is he? Like, is he big shot? Local
Peppa
big shot?
Pig.
Is
he? You're thinking of the right thing, Josh.
What? Yeah. What do you mean?
Yeah, Peppa Pig was a pig. It was like, so Peppa Pig. So the person came out in a mask, in a big mask, and they come out. I'm a plant, so that's why I didn't go under the name James Lugosi. I was Mick Foliage, so I was just in the crown. And they're like, does anyone want to wrestle Peppa Pig? And I'm like, me. And I come out. I can't remember the song I came out to, and I'm a bit reserved. I know no one knows this yet, but I'm a good guy, and so
another exclusive.
I'm like well up for it. I shake everyone's hand, and then they remove the mask, and Peppa Pig is like a demon with like multiple eyes. They spit out blood, and then they just beat the shit out of me for 10 minutes, and then I lose. But yeah, that was great.
Oh mate, that sounds awesome.
A highlight of my career, of my wrestling career.
That's sick.
Love that.
I remember like when I came down to Brighton, I think a few years ago, we went to a wrestling show. I can't remember where it was. I stayed at yours, Con.
It was Riptide.
Riptide, that was it. Yeah, and Ross was there. Like weirdly, like my brother was there, and he was like watching wrestling. It's really weird. But yeah, that was class. Like that's the
first. It was in that venue as well, so like that's why. And I always wanted to wrestle there, so I was like, I'm ticking some boxes. This is great.
Yeah. No, it was awesome, man.
Oh, where you wrestled was the same as where Riptide was.
Yeah. So like that was the reason I couldn't turn it down.
I feel like the fire alarm went off or something, like in the middle of that show, and we all had to go out for like 20 minutes and then come back in.
Yeah, Will Ospreay acted as like the fire safety man,
fire marshal,
a giant star in wrestling. He was quite famous then, but like he is like to think like to be in a close, personal, silly moment with that wrestler. That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Oh mate, that's wicked. So that's really exciting, man. I can't wait to see like what you do with it.
I want to wrestle on the Isle of Wight and get that belt that has the Isle of Wight on it, and then like stamp on it or something.
Or just do that thing that they used to do in WWE where like
like do
you
the
just
whole
go
baby
vacant.
face, and then just like turn on the crowd immediately.
Steal the Isle of Wight championship and bring it to Brighton.
Yeah, literally. I'm from woke Brighton. We only eat vegan food here. Yeah, just really double down on that.
That would be amazing.
So it's kind of segueing kind of out of wrestling. Obviously, this is a video game podcast normally. What sort of... You're not a massive video game guy, but you obviously played, we used to obviously play games together a lot, like around Tristan's and that. Like, what sort of games are you into other than wrestling games?
I'm a big, like, click and play guy. I love video games based on, like, storylines and stuff like that. I really liked this game called, like, Norco. Like, I played that recently. It was, like, it was an indie one, and like it was a bit buggy, but it looked really, really cool. It was like an 8-bit sort of, everything was written, kind of reminded me of like Dungeons and Dragons a little bit somehow, because of all the reading.
Right.
And that game is really cool. Really recommend that game. I really like just stuff like Alan Wake, like any sort of game that kind of feels like I'm watching a movie, but I'm like controlling it. Like I'm a sucker for those.
So I'm playing, weirdly, started Alan Wake Remastered yesterday with Carly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've because I never had an Xbox growing up, so this is the first time I played it, and I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Like I loved it. When it came out, I got like I remember being just a sucker for that game for some reason when it came out, and got like came in a big book, and it had
like a figure.
No, it was just like the video game case was just a giant book. And
oh right, yeah, because he's a writer.
Yeah, and like I don't know why because I replayed it recently, and that's why I thought of it. The narration really reminds me of Garth Marenghi.
Yeah. It's got that kind of like weird.
It kind of ruined it for me. I'm sorry.
No, me and Carly were like, we didn't say Garth Marenghi, but we were like, it's sort of, you can't quite put your finger on it. It's like quite whimsical, isn't it, in the way it's written. And like Remedy, the developers, like obviously they did Max Payne as well, and that's like a lot of it's just a monologue all the time, like in between the levels, and it's like written like really cheesily, and like I think they just do that really well. Are you gonna get it's so good. Like not enough games do that. Like it can come across a bit shit sometimes, I think, if you don't get it right, but I feel like they always do a good job. I swear though, like so we played about an hour last night. Like we just got to the town, like it's very Twin Peaks, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And just got to the cabin.
It's like the lamp lady instead of the log lady.
Yeah. It's on the nose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fucking weird. It's really weird, but I like it. I like it when games, throw you off kilter a little bit.
Yeah, that's my vibe. I just Google every now and again. I'll Google video games like Twin Peaks, and I will play that list.
So, like other story games, you like kind of if you play a game, it's kind of narrative driven.
Yeah,
you're not a sports game like first person shooter. Like
I have been playing.
Good story.
What's that farm game that came out on N64 years ago?
Animal Crossing.
Harvest Moon.
Harvest Moon. Yeah, I've been playing that a lot.
Yeah, mate, Harvest Moon's sick. Harvest Moon's
so weird. Like the storylines, but that aren't your storylines. Like you walk in a room and it would be like a person talking about, like it'd be like a breakup in a relationship or something going on between two people who live in the town, or like you just walk in on just random shit and then it just never follow through with it. Like, out of nowhere, be playing it for like 20 hours and then just like, then suddenly something happens.
Are you playing the N64 version?
Yeah, it's on the PS Now thing, or the PlayStation Plus, whatever it's called now.
Oh, right, yeah, got ya. Nice. So then, wrestling games. Are you guys obviously? Well, Connor, I know you played a lot of wrestling games. You've been playing the new one. What is it?
Yeah.
AEW.
Yeah.
AW Fight Forever.
So, what's it like, and how does it compare to older wrestling games?
It's meant to be like the spiritual successor of No Mercy that came out on N64. It's like I think maybe even the same engine or something like that. I don't really know anything about video games, so like that's why
Glad we got you on, mate.
so like
It won't be on the same engine, I can tell you that.
It won't be, yeah. It won't be.
okay.
No, I'm just winding you up. So it's a spiritual successor, is it, to like the older?
So yeah, like these I think it's like THQ that used to do WWE and now does it. And it's like No Mercy was like a video game that I think has had a comeback like during like the internet, because people can discuss about like how good that video game used to be or whatever. And I think Kenny Omega, who is on the AEW roster and is like an MVP or whatever that they call it in AEW, he's also like quite big in the video game space a little bit. Like he's he does all that stuff, like all those things that you watch where they talk about video games and you guys get excited.
He was in one of the Yakuza games.
Yeah. So like it's in good hands, and like it's definitely, I think, made in the heart to be an enjoyable video game, where I think WWE is kind of like a simulation. It's like it kind of is like, this is what a match is and this is what it's like, where I think AEW is like a lot of button bashing. It's got like,
it's a bit more arcadey feel to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's even got like an arcadey look, which is like I think like its faults like are like created by people being used to WWE style of video game for so long, where it's like everything needs to look like exactly like the wrestler, or everything needs to look exactly how a match would be, or like you run out of energy, so you've run out of energy forever, where it just feels like an AEW, like it's kind of like Tekken. It's like more of a button bash game.
Right. So have you played quite a lot of it, the two of you? Have you played it together?
I've played career mode a few times now.
Right. So you're enjoying it then?
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think it's definitely an alternative, and because I got the latest WWE game last year, and I was surprised that I enjoyed it. And I think those games are really good to, like, I love a good shut your brain off game where I can kind of put a podcast on and like have other entertainment on in the background and be stimulated by all these different things.
Yeah.
And I think AEW, their version of it is a lot more fun and doesn't take itself too seriously, where like I think the WWE games are, and it's just really hard to compare it. And I think the faults of it are born out of like comparing it.
Yeah. It sounds a bit like kind of like Gran Turismo is like a driving simulator.
Yeah.
But Need for Speed's just a fun driving game where you can make your car go like 300 miles an hour, like round a corner, and it's just fun. But it's not an accurate representation of what it is to actually fucking drive a car.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like that kind of level. Because you kind of, I don't know if I'm mincing your words, but I thought you said a couple of weeks ago you weren't huge on it to start with.
Yeah, so I think I've done 2 playthroughs of the campaign or the career mode now. Once with a created wrestler and once with Scorpio Sky.
Right.
And then I've done loads of the exhibition stuff on it.
So you played quite a bit of it.
I've pretty much done everything it's got to offer now. Right. I think I was the issues that I had with it and still have with it are like on things that I wanted it to do differently or better than WWE games historically have, and they didn't do those things. but like the customization being one, like when you create your own wrestler and stuff, it's quite limited. And obviously they can add more stuff like that in at a later date. And honestly, after playing it for a bit and looking into it, it makes me feel like maybe they were pushed to get it out, because they're now adding in next month. They're adding in Stadium Stampede game mode, which is basically battle royale. So
Yeah.
there's
Right.
30 people in a stadium, and you can run around, pick up weapons, and you've got to like get each other out of the stadium,
sick.
and last person stand wins.
That's
That should
cool.
have been in it since day one.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
So basically,
You know what I mean?
the vibe with the game is, I think, it's going to be like you buy this game and you own it for. I think they're just going to be adding to it for years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just dropping DLC like over time.
Yeah, and I think like it's weird because it's very. There's so many weird choices in it. Like William Regal is in it, and he's not in AEW anymore, and like. That's weird. Like he's like the voiceover, like the instruction guy. You know how like
I
Bruce
was going to ask about that.
Yeah,
Campbell's like the voice in Spider-Man, like the Spider-Man 1, and be like, "You need to go up here." Whatever.
yeah.
That's like what William Regal's doing, and they could have just got rid of that. Like he's gone now.
And just got someone else in to do it.
Yeah, and like Cody Rhodes is famous in WWE now.
I was going to ask you this.
Halfway through the career mode, you just fight him, and I'm like, what? Like that's really
It's
random.
just random.
What's the story? Like, maybe keep it separate from this, and we'll go into it in a minute. Why did Cody Rhodes go back to WWE?
He's kept that a secret, but they were basically the crowd actually turned on him. So like he wanted to be a good guy. People just kept booing him. That was kind of weird. And then his contract came up in real life, and everyone was like, "Oh, it's just a rumor. He won't go to WWE." And then 2 months later, he was in WWE. It was quite wild. Especially he's one of like the main creators of AEW to like jump ships like that. It was a wild time.
Yeah. So he like basically founded it and then went back to WWE.
Yeah.
So what are they? They're two different entities. What's the difference between them? Are they just two separate wrestling like franchises?
Yeah. So like WWE is like has had the monopoly on pro wrestling since 2001 when they bought WCW. So there was two wrestling companies, and then the only company to work at was WWE until 2019 when AEW was like started, and it basically AEW was born out of like an idea of like people being tired of this style of wrestling, this product that it's like if all we got was Marvel movies forever, and we never had a DC movie for like 12 years or whatever, or 20 years.
Right. Okay.
Suddenly DC came back and everyone was
They're
like,
the comic
"Oh
book guys.
shit,
Yeah.
DC's here," and they've got all their stuff is completely different to Marvel, and they're doing it this way, and that's how AEW was kind of born. And I think that's a positive way to like look at the video game. Is like, oh, we have two wrestling video games. One's this, one's that style. It's like with like as a fan, I'm just drowning in content. It's hard to like keep up with it.
Well, that typically is always a good thing, isn't it? Like competition usually brings out the best in the other companies. Like, you know, football games, stuff like that, first-person shooters. If they've always had direct competition, they always usually go, well, they did that really fucking well, so let's maybe incorporate that into our next game.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll do, like, I know you said about them, you kind of see it as like 4 or 5 year game where they just drop DLC for it. Do you think they'll do a sequel then eventually, maybe that improves on some of its flaws? And
yeah, exactly.
You see that?
The weird thing about this game, like a bit of history on it, is they announced it like I think like 2 or 3 years ago. And it's kind of been like a running joke that this game will never come out because it was constantly just like it was like coming soon. It was never like an announced date. So like that's what I think feels weird about it, kind of not feeling finished, like when it came out. Because when it came out, like, so like full disclosure, like my company I work for works for AEW. We're doing
Right.
like their email marketing or whatever. So we had a meeting coming up, and I was like, I'm gonna get the game. Look, so like I have something to chat about. Everyone would be in good spirits, and the game didn't work. I downloaded it, and the game didn't work, and it was like,
Or it just didn't load, or
like
it was just broken.
Every time it would load up a match, it would just crash my PlayStation, and I thought it was
Right.
a PlayStation, and then I went on Twitter, and it was like a PlayStation 4 detail like thing, and eventually everyone figured out you had to turn your PlayStation offline, and then you could play the game.
Oh, right. Because it was like a pre-release copy.
No, because it was like a day one bug, and
Oh, fucking
like
hell.
it's weird because like it has taken this long to come out, but like, yeah, it's cut. I would some sort of post documentary or podcast in a couple of years, like deep dive on this actual release of the video game, would be very interesting because
I'd
there's
love
a lot
that.
of weird stuff from day one.
Well, that'll be episode 150, mate. Of Cast Reflect, probably.
We'll have Kenny Omega and you on, and we'll talk about the release.
Yeah, we'll get him in. Definitely. Nice. Well, I think because we're running out of time on the Squadcast, what have you got? You've got your band going on.
Yeah, we've got gigs coming up, so like, just go on our Instagram. Definitely not haunted.
Definitely not haunted.
Definitely not haunted _
Right.
Or follow me at the Draculad James Lugosi on Instagram to find it all there.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Wicked. Well, thank you so much for coming on, dude.
Yeah, no worries.
It's been a pleasure chatting to you.
Yeah, you too.
Thanks, Con, for joining as always.
No problem.
And we'll see you all in episode 22.
Cheerio.
Bye.